All
And there you
right.
go. Cheryl, it's all yours.
Welcome to Mastermind Monday series, everybody. I just want to thank all of you for coming back every Monday and welcome you that have not yet joined us to become a fan of Mastermind Mondays. We've improved week after week. We now have all of the sessions recorded on YouTube. We have a special channel that Christine McClellan has prepared for us, and it's also on our group page, New England Region CRS group page. You'd have to join that because it's private. So without further ado, I'm very excited about today's speaker. And first we're going to hear from Kelly, and then Kelly will pass to Nora for her bio.
Thank you, Cheryl. So Nora and I are really excited to be the host of Mastermind Monday here in the New England region. And for the past 10 weeks, we've been, working on things that you need in Corona world. And it's really exciting. Over the last week, we've all seen the market flooded with property, and it's time to get back to business. And Nora, why don't you tell us a little bit more about today's speaker and how she's going to help them do that?
Addie, I'm so excited that you're here. So Addie Owens is the 2020 president of her local Realtors Association, a public speaker, and a positive thought driver, and owner of Touchstone Real Estate in Mount Dora, Florida, which I learned is just 20 miles north of Orlando, around the Villages too. With 15 years of real estate experience, Addie has put her skills to work educating fellow realtors across the country. Her successful background in appraisals and REO dispositions helped her catapult her business over the years. And Addie is married with 2 adult children and a Blue Star mom, thank you, and owner of Clyde, the oversized chocolate lab. So welcome, Addie.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you having me here today. And thank you, New England CRS, for having me. I met a lot of you at Celebration this year, and it feels like it was 5 years ago, but it was only in February and it's June. So I don't know about y'all, but I'm tired. So are you guys ready to get started?
Absolutely, Addie. What do you got for us?
Awesome. So this year, we're going to talk about resiliency. And it does feel like Celebration was ages ago. Of notable things that we've encountered this year, number 1, Carol Baskin. Number 2, Zoom fatigue, and actually running out of things to watch on Netflix. Who would have thought at the beginning of the year, those are the things that we would have faced before June? I definitely would not have thought that. And I guess we also have to mention that COVID-19, the Grim Reaper, and trying to sell real estate while we have the murder or the killer hornet invasion. Murder hornets, is that what they're called? Yeah, exactly. So I'd say that because we're all still alive and kicking and selling real estate, that we're probably pretty resilient people. And I may have gotten a few of those mixed up, so I apologize if those were backwards in order of priority, but I was definitely surprised about the whole Carol Baskin thing. So raise your hand if you were really excited to see 2020 roll in. I know I was. Anybody show of hands in the chat room? Were you excited to see 2020 roll in? Yeah, definitely, right? And how many of you are just as excited to see 2020 roll out and be in the rearview mirror? Me. I'm president of my local association this year, and I love leading our organization. It's a wonderful privilege, and I'm so happy to have it. And I'm also excited for the president-elect to take over in January. So I figured I thought that's what you would say about 2020 rolling out. So let's talk a little bit about resiliency. By show of hands, how many of you believe that you are a resilient human being? I see some hands up in the chat box. That's awesome. I think I found a new friends, and we should chat later, right? But the truth is, I never thought of myself as being a resilient person either. So if you didn't raise your hand, I can totally relate to you as well. So I finally came to terms with this about myself at the end of last year, because it took a little while to accept certain things about myself and my journey. So first thing, what do you think it means to be resilient? Type your answers in the chat box. Let's see what you think being resilient means to you. Anybody? All right, staying positive in adversity, being strong and adaptable, being tough, Those are all really great examples. Being courageous, positive, tenacious, those are all really great examples of resiliency. So Webster defines it as to be able to withstand or recover quickly from difficult conditions. So we're in real estate. We naturally encounter an environment that allows us to exercise our resiliency on a daily basis. I like to say that we're in the roller coaster industry, and it's my job to make sure you don't lose your lunch while we ride it, right? It's the roller coaster environment, because as we all know, there's serious peaks and valleys in our business, and it feels like a wild ride sometimes, but it's exhilarating and it gets our adrenaline going. And when we're negotiating a deal, it feels awesome. And then when it falls apart, it feels just devastating. And that's the highs and lows of our business. And that's that roller coaster ride. So we can't talk about resiliency without talking about adversity, because without it, there is no resiliency. So by show of hands in the chat box, how many of you have encountered adversity in your life? Any of you? One, two. Awesome. Just a handful of you, so we could probably just log out and go home. We don't need this thing on resiliency because we haven't faced adversity. Just kidding. Don't log off. Then I'll be talking to myself, and that's really, really awkward, but it does happen. So pro tip, don't ever minimalize or trivialize the adversity that you face in your life every single day. Because remember, to some, reading is a battle, right? Speaking is a battle. People that stutter, people that have dyslexia, that's an adverse condition in your life that you have to overcome. So comparison is the thief of joy. Even when we're talking about adversity, your adversity is no less than someone else's. So how many of you have said, I have it really good compared to other people? Show me your hands, right? Show me your hands and raise your hands if you've said, I have it really good compared to other people. And show me your hands if you've ever said, my life's not as bad as anybody else's. I don't really overcome things because it's not as bad. I mean, I don't have cancer, right? How many of us have said that? But that's not how we should deal with our adversity. I'm in no way saying that you should have a pity party for your adversity, but you should definitely celebrate the adversity that you faced in your life, because it's changing you. It's molding you into being a better version of yourself. So let's talk about our responses to adversity for just a few minutes. So in the chat box, will you tell me what you think a typical response to facing adversity is? Let's talk about that for a minute. Anybody in the chat box? What's a typical response for facing adversity? Frustration, avoiding it, shutting down, avoidance, ignoring it. Yes, all of those are typical responses. It's that fight, flight, or freeze. That third one doesn't get enough attention. So when you fight adversity, you're either fighting the reality of it or the fear of it, right? So I'm going to fight what I know and I can see based on facts, or I'm going to battle the fear of what it could be, could become, or the harm that it could cause. So when you're in fight mode or flight mode, you're either running because someone is chasing you, like AKA the zombie apocalypse, or it's your brain's way of avoiding it and not confronting the adversity in your life. But what doesn't get addressed enough is freeze, right? Do nothing. Have the storms swirl around you like a tornado, and either being paralyzed by fear or by being resolute in your decision to be unmoved by what's going on around you. That's also a very valid response, and it's not necessarily wrong. So the difference in all of these scenarios is intention, right? There is accidental success and there is well-planned intentional success. The same is true with being resilient, right? So we're going to instinctively respond to adversity by either fighting it, fleeing from it, or freezing. Those are instincts that you can't fight. You have to train your body to instinctively respond to adversity, right? It's no different than exercising a muscle or learning how to play golf and practicing that swing over and over again, or being a baseball player and swinging the bat. You have to train your body and your mind to react positively to adversity, and that creates resiliency in your life. So adversity happens to us every day. And if we're well-oiled machines, all day long, we're faced with a series of choices. Resiliency is how one responds to the difficult or adverse conditions that we're presented with. So you've got to exercise that body and that mind in order to respond more positively to the adverse conditions. So as I reflected on my own journey through life, I look back and I think about my family, and I am your typical, I come from the typical white middle-class family that faced typical white middle-class challenges in life, right? I had two brothers, one older, one younger. And it was a battle of being a latchkey kid and fighting with your brothers after school and, getting a bad grade on the report card. That was the challenge of life. We grew up in the 80s. It was a great time. My parents are still married. We had like an ideal childhood, but adulting hasn't been so easy. So we get up every single day and we face, and we're committed to just being better than we were yesterday, right? Adulting is not fun. Can we get a refund on adulting? Because we all fast forwarded the childhood to get here, and now we hear it adulting, and it's hard. But back in 2010, I stopped feeling well, really feeling well. There wasn't a part of my body that didn't ache. My back hurt, my head hurt, my arms hurt, my toes were twitching when I was sleeping. It was just this really uncomfortable feeling. And then one day I woke up and it felt like a vice had clamped down on my neck and my head. And my back pain had escalated to like level 10 pain. I couldn't even hardly stand up straight. But nonetheless, like a strong, independent woman that I am, I drove myself to the ER. And I stood there, and I remember I had a hoodie on and I covered it over my head. And I just laid in the corner of the ER, just hoping and praying that they would call my name. And finally, they got me in the back and they told me that I had a migraine, and then sent me home with some pain medicine. And the pain medicine didn't help, like not even in the slightest. It was excruciating. So we went back to the ER later on, and I don't remember much after that. I remember hijacking a hospital bed. It was in a dark room. It was unoccupied, so don't think that somebody was in it. I scooted myself into the hospital bed. I told the husband, the second husband, he was fun, but he's not my husband anymore. I told him, I'm going to take this bed, so you stay there and tell them where I'm at, but I'm going to go in there because the lights were just too much. The sound was too much, and I was sitting in a hospital corridor because it was so filled. So I jumped in the bed and I pulled my hood over my eyes and put my sunglasses on and covered my ears. And I vaguely remember an MRI. I vaguely remember the spinal tap. And a couple of days later, I was lucid enough that the doctor finally came in to talk to me. He told me at that moment in time that I had meningitis, and I had a rare disease that caused it. So, oh, by the way, you're going to have this again, and perhaps again, and perhaps unlimited amount of times in your adult life, you're going to have meningitis. And with it, an acute brain injury. So when you have meningitis, the meninges of your brain swells, right? Well, it can cause a brain injury. Any brain injury that you weren't born with is called acquired brain injury. So I spent the next couple of months stuttering and not being able to recall words. It was hard for me to talk. When I would speak, my words would fall. It was like walking and having the sidewalk fall out from underneath you when I would speak a sentence. So I stopped talking for like the first time in my life while my brain recovered. I was very uncoordinated. I would trip all the time. I was extremely tired. I was easily agitated. I was depressed. I was angry and I was resentful. And this was my way of dealing with that adversity. And I knew that once I recovered, there was a very good chance I would have to go through this again. And I had to find a way to help my body become a healthy environment so I didn't have to go through this again. But I would go through it another 4 times, 3 in the hospital. And in 2016, after my last bout, I had to make a conscious decision. I had to be much more intentional with the way that I was dealing with this particular adversity. When I was first diagnosed, you might as well have thrown me in a dark room and said, you're going to be in here by yourself for a little while, because it was so rare. There was a little over 350 diagnosed cases across the globe. And social media wasn't what it was 10 years ago. And the internet, isn't what it was today, 10 years ago. The access to information was very, very limited. The information that was out there about my particular disease is extremely limited. It's still limited, and most of it's wrong that you find on the internet. It was only through a support network that I was able to get more accurate information. And most recently, we've had a fellow from Denmark that's been studying this particular disease, because there are no studies. If there's not mass infection, there's no studies. And the way that we're all living today is the way that I've been living for the last 10 years, because my immune system is compromised. So that recovery for struggle was so mental. And that resiliency that I had to develop in those moments was extreme. And it's been a process. And I promise you, I was not a pleasant host in the beginning. This was not an easy battle to fight. And it still isn't an easy battle to fight, because it is so mental, and it actually affects the brain. So I know that when I'm gearing up to another flare, there are certain things about my disposition, my ability to function, that are compromised. But overcoming this adversity on a daily basis has forced me to make some pretty substantial business practice changes. And that is setting clear boundaries with myself in my business. And it's not always easy. As we know, real estate bleeds into so many different avenues of our life, right? How many of you are sitting down at dinner on a regular night and the phone rings, and what do? You answer it, right? It's so hard to shut real estate off. It's so hard, but we have to be intentional. So if resiliency is not a destination, right? It's a journey. You don't just wake up one day and say, I'm a resilient human being. No, you have to look back at the adversity that you faced in your life and decide you were either resilient or you were not. And we're not always going to be resilient in every single situation. We're not always going to have that bounce back, are we? How many of you have been faced with a situation and didn't bounce back? Hands go up. Can I see some hands? Show me by a show of hands if you've been faced with a situation and didn't bounce back. But it's okay, right? Because it molded you and it changed who you were, and most likely for the better, even if it didn't feel so much at the time. So to talk about a little bit more about resiliency in our business, in the chat box, what are a few of the things that you do to keep resilient in your business? Nora, yes, you're still here, so you bounced back for sure. All right, so what do we do? Ask for help. Yes, reach out. What else do we do in our business to remain resilient? Hang around positive people. Yes. Strong, positive mental attitude. Absolutely. Being around like-minded individuals. Yes, absolutely. And exposing yourself to people that are not like you helps you grow. Surround yourself with inspirational people. Hands down, absolutely 100%. And yes, I thought I had to misread it. All right, so the number one thing that you can do in your business is welcome change. Invite it in your front door, tell it to sit down, and invite it to stay a while. Because especially in real estate, we are an evolutionary business, right? Every single day, real estate is changing. I found it interesting that at the beginning of this year, pre-Carol Baskin, we have the same tools that we're using today in real estate. There's no new tool that was invented in the last 6 months for real estate that we finally said, oh, we have to use this tool. No, they're all the same. We're just using the tools that everybody looked at and said, oh, those are cute little tools. And never picked them up and used them. That's crazy. I mean, we've had Zoom for years. We've been having web meetings for years. Matterport, that came out in 2002, right? That we're talking about TikTok as a new tool. Yes, TikTok is a new tool. Everybody learn the dance. I still have never done a TikTok video, but yours are fun. So if we don't embrace the change on a daily basis, we're never going to evolve, and we can't become resilient, because resiliency is inviting that change in so we can remain nimble and stretch and tone and really refine our business by welcoming that change coming in the door. Number two, decide if the adversity is happening to you or around you, because it's not always happening to you. Sometimes it is just around you. And implement the assess, analyze, and act method. Assess, analyze, and act when facing a difficult issue in your business. What's the issue? Is it happening to me, or is it happening around me? Is it internal or is it external? This can be an organizational thing, a company thing. It could be a team thing. It could be a family thing that's happening either to you or around you. That's really important to decide what is what, right? So on ACT, step over your fear and implement a plan. You got to have a plan. That's the intention. Intention is going to help you through adversity. And that is the number three thing. Serendipity is fun, but it's accidental. You know, I want to accidentally plan a vacation. I love taking a serendipitous vacation, but what I don't want to do is accidentally succeed, because it can accidentally be taken away from you much faster than an intentional business plan. So to wrap it up, I'm going to ask one more question of our folks here. How many of you saw opportunity at the beginning of this adversity that we were facing? By show of hands.
We have some great Q&A here, and Nora's got a couple of great questions for you. Nora, why don't you go ahead?
Oh, sure. Addie, what are some of the tools or coaches or, you know, personal development or business development tools that you use or that you access?
Let's see, development tools, lots of listening books. I can't read that much anymore, but I love to listen to books, and I have pieces of books because my attention span is really short. It's like squirrel times 10. But business tools, it's other individuals. It's soaking up information. It's conferences. The conferences that we attend are the best thing that we can learn from, because they're other business professionals. That is our best tool, other people.
Do you have a coach, Addie? A business coach?
No. No, I don't use a business coach. I coach myself. Sometimes it's obvious.
So if you were a new agent coming into real estate today, what would you say the top 3 pitfalls that a new agent should be aware of, that they should build their resiliency to prior to coming into the business?
Number one, they got to have a plan. I think there's so many people out there that are getting their business license or their real estate license and they have no plan. It's a hope and a prayer, and I know people who like real estate. That's not a plan. This is a business, and they need to understand that they are opening a business. So they have to operate like a business. Their sphere is going to be the source of their business, but without a plan, they're going to fall flat within 3 years. I think the statistic is 74% of all new real estate licensees fail within the first 3 years. And that's why.
Okay. And then what about the realtor that's been in for 20 years? They've been shut down for the last 3 months because maybe their state wouldn't let them operate. Now it's like starting from square one. They've been calling their sphere saying, hey, I hope you're doing well, but how do they move that into real estate mode?
Well, I saw something at the beginning of the pandemic, which was really good, and that's stop selling and start caring. So, you know, it goes back into almost the reinventing ourselves. Some things of our business have changed, but not much. What we do is still relatively the same. People still need to move. People still need to sell. Families are still growing. Houses are still becoming too big. So I think number one is pick up the phone and call your sphere. Ask them how they're doing. Don't try to sell anything right now. Just ask them how they're doing. Stay in touch, stay top of mind, and start investigating some of those new technology tools. We had a realtor who was attacked over the weekend at an open house, and there's another push to end open houses. I don't disagree. Open houses are inherently unsafe. there's a lot of technology out there. So your 20-year veteran needs to start adapting those new technologies or the technologies and start accepting change in their business.
Addie, Cheryl had a question. Have you had to build a team to help support you? And if so, what does your team look like?
Yes. So back when I was at the thick of my REO business, I had a full team. I had a receptionist within a brokerage. I had my own receptionist. My cell phone became the office number for our team because I couldn't answer it anymore. It was just too much. I had a transaction coordinator and I had a buyer's agent. So that was our team. And I've never gone beyond 3 buyer's agents on any given basis. But since opening my own brokerage, that team environment kind of changed. So I had an operations director that helped me with the brokerage, and then I was kind of listing and selling and kind of being a broker owner. So at this point, I've scaled back drastically. I've gone back to selling mostly full time with 1 administrative assistant and 1 buyer's agent. We're leaner, we're meaner, and we're more effective.
That's great. And then Cheryl had another question. When did you join CRS and what courses did you find helpful in building your career?
Oh, I joined CRS in 2018 was my first year. 2017, I think it was my first year. I was really excited to be a CRS. That was the time Lee Brown was president that year, and I was so excited because she's so sassy and offers such personality. And really the best asset that I've really dove into is the relationships with CRS. There was a marketing class that I took in the beginning while earning my designation. I can't remember the name of it. It's been a couple years now, but it talked about websites. And I came from a large brand that offered you websites that I never really used, to be honest with you. Because my source was REO stuff, I didn't have to worry about generating leads. I just had to worry about doing a good job on the BPOs and getting property sold. So having that introduction into establishing like WordPress websites, I had no idea what a WordPress website was in 2017. No idea. I'm like, what's that? So that was a really valuable class, and it helped me not be afraid of websites. No.
Addie, you had so many great things today. I know that I've gotten a lot of takeaways. I know the New England Region CRS here has gotten a lot of takeaways, and we want to thank you for being part of Mastermind Monday. And we invite you to come back, visit us from week to week with some of the other great speakers that we have coming up. So last week we talked about YouTube in the New England region, and a lot of realtors want to learn more about using YouTube. And I don't know what to tell you, everybody. We already have it lined up. Nora, why don't you tell them who's coming next week?
So Addie, first of all, thank you very much. And thank you for sharing. And that was really great. So resiliency, that's what it's all about. Pivot, resiliency, bounce back. But for next week, we have Katie Lance coming on. And Katie is someone near and dear to my heart. I was part of her mastermind, her first Napa mastermind a couple of years ago, and I'm part of her Get Social Smart Academy. And Katie Lance is the guru of everything social media for real estate agents and realtors, right? So we're really excited to have her on. And I believe she's going to be honing in on YouTube, basically how to repurpose your Instagram feed, different posts and repurposing video, all different things to use for building up your YouTube. So that'll be exciting. So please bring your questions, put them on Facebook, be ready to have them on the Zoom group chat. And we're looking forward to having Katie next week.
Absolutely. And then we will not be here on Monday, July 6th. And then going into July, we have Sarah Gustafson's going to come teach how to become part of a BNI, be effective, build your network. And they're operating here in the cloud these days. Katie Clancy from Cape Cod, she's coming up in our schedule. And then Jen Teskey. So if anybody was at Celebration, Jen Teskey was a ball of fire about G Suite Lane to G Suite fame, and she's got some great apps to share with you for free to help you build your business. So we are looking forward to the continuing weeks. If you are not a member of the New England Region CRS group, if you could please like that page. We do post, the Zoom link is always the same link every week. We do post reminders there, and it's a great asset for you. You can find replays of this week's edition with Addie, as well as the past week's editions there. And also thanks to Christine McClellan, you can find them on our YouTube channel. And Cheryl, we'll pass it back to you.
Well, usually it's my turn to wrap up, but we have Lisa Parento on the line, President-elect for 2020, and you're President for 2021. And what's your message you'd like to share, Lisa?
I just want to once again thank Kelly and Nora and certainly Cheryl for your vision. This just every week brings more value to everyone who can attend. And if you can't attend live, the fact that one of our own, as Kelly just said, created a YouTube channel, everything is posted there. I am so fired up for the rest of this year. You know, Addie said, you know, who expected to sort of be in a better place than we were? And honestly, I am just so proud and excited to say I think that we really are, and we're continuing to make superb lemonade. I am so grateful to everybody. With that in mind, and I'll mention a little bit more next week, but we are going to be sending out to the entire New England region membership an invitation to join our leadership team next year. So I'll go into that a little bit more in detail. I'm very excited about sort of continuing to open up our group, and thanks again, ladies. You've just blown the cover off the ball again this week. Thank you so much.
Okay, and with that, it's 12:31. Thank you so much for your time and attendance. Spread the word. We'd like to see more of your friends. Join us as well.
Thank you, Addie. Thank
care.
you.
Thank you, Addie.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.